Okay, so the T-Mobile One family plan includes 4 lines and unlimited data calls and texts for $160 a month. I'm just gonna be honest with you, life lesson, that's really cheap for a phone plan. I don't know what your family pays for a phone plan, but mine pays over $200 a month for a phone plan. And you're lucky you don't have to pay it. Someday you will. I'm assuming you don't have to pay it. There's an activation fee of $80. So every time you get a cell phone, obviously you have to pay for the phone, and they usually charge you an activation fee, which means like they turn on your phone line. And that only happens one time. So the first thing we want to do is say what X is equal to and Y is equal to. So when we graph, we got to say what axis represents what. 99% of the time, your x-axis is going to be some unit of time. So seconds, minutes, hours, weeks, months, years. So for this situation, how often are you paying your bill? Months. So we're going to say that x is going to be months. So that means our output, what I'm measuring, is going to be dollars. So I'm paying dollars for this cell phone plan. How do I determine how many dollars that I pay a month? What 2 things are happening to get my total amount? What 2 prices am I paying? I'm paying the activation fee and the 160 per month. So we're going to write an equation. So my total dollars, remember total dollars is Y, is going to be that $160 per month. That X represents however many months, plus the $80 fee. Remember, the $80 only happens one time. That's why I don't put it next to X. It only happens once. Okay, so let's graph it. On our x-axis, remember x-axis is months. You're just going to count by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. Your y-axis is going to be dollars. Do I want to count by ones? No, because I at least need to count up to 160. What would make sense to go by on the y-axis? I could go by 20s. That's still kind of a little bit small to get up. I want to go past 160 because I'm talking about multiple months. Okay, could do 50s, but my 2 numbers are 160 and 80. So 40s or a little bit bigger. What goes into 80 and 160? 80. Okay, yeah. 40 would be fine, but I'm going to go by 80s. So we're going to go 80, 160, 240, 320, 400, 480, 560, 640, 720, and 800. Okay, so for us to be able to draw a line, we got to make some points. So before I even get my cell phone, how much money am I paying? $80. Before I even use the phone one time, I have to pay $80. So my line is not going to start at 0. My line is going to start at 0, 80, because that is my initial fee for the cell phone. After 1 month, how much total money have I paid? Okay, good. Not 160, 240. Because remember, I did pay 160 for that month, but I had already paid $80. So my next point should be after 1 month, I paid $240. How much total after 2 months? So I want to add 160. 400. How much after 3 months? 560. After 4 months, 720. Notice how it goes in a straight line, right? Because it's a consistent month charge. Okay, so now from there, this is where I want you to use your ruler because I want us to be accurate. I want you to draw as straight of a line as you can that goes through those points, but extends a little bit past that last point that you drew with an arrow on the end. And we'll talk about why that is in a second. So your line should look similar to what mine looks like. Why do we put an arrow only on that end? It keeps going. Why didn't I put an arrow on this end? That's where I started, because I can't go negative months, right? And I also eventually can't go negative money. Is the cell phone company going to pay me money? No. Yeah, we're only paying, yeah, I wish too. They're only paying, we are only paying them money. So you only want your arrow on that end. That's not always going to be the case. Sometimes there'll be arrow on both ends. Sometimes there will be no arrows. It just depends on the situation. So you got to make sure that you're understanding what's happening. Okay, so I want you to answer this question at the bottom. So it's, what is the slope of the line? Tell me what it means. So remember, you can use any 2 points you want to find the slope. It doesn't matter. And you're finding out how much it's going up and how much to the right. And simplify if possible. Okay, Miss Simpkins is just going to choose this point and this point. And I went from 400 to 720, which is 320. And then I went from 2 to 4, which is 2. If we took 320 and divided by 2, that would be 160. That number should look familiar. Is it a coincidence that 160 is the slope and 160 is how much I was charged a month? No, it's going to be the same thing. If it's happening per month or per week or per second, that's going to be your slope. So I technically didn't really even need to use the graph to find the slope, but I just wanted you to show you that it was the same thing. And this says, what does the slope represent? Well, that was the dollars per month, or the chart, not month, or charge per month. Okay, there are 2 other questions. At what point does the line touch the y-axis or intersect the y-axis? So where does it touch the y-axis? Not 80. Remember, I'm a pet peeve. It's a point, not just 80. What is it? 0, 80. Yeah, 0, 80. And that, what is the 80 representing for this problem?
The money that we start with.
Yeah, initial charge, right? My activation fee, however you want to say it. Initial charge, activation fee, all that good stuff. Okay, let's try another one. You saved $250 to spend over the summer. You decide to budget $25 to spend each week. So the first thing we always need to do is say what X equals and what Y equals. So what unit of time are we using here? Weeks. Yeah, we're spending money per week. So our X is going to be weeks. And then just like the last problem, the Y value is going to be dollars. So our X value is weeks, Y value is dollars. So we're going to write an equation. So I have my dollars. How much am I spending per week? 25. Is my amount of money going to go down by $25 or up by $25? Down. So instead of having positive 25 as my slope, I'm going to have negative $25 per week because my amount of money that I have in my pocket is going down. But I started with how much? So yeah, so plus 250. So I have to take into account the spending the 25, but then I also remember, oh, but I have this $250 that I can take into account when I'm spending also. All right, so let's make a graph. X value is going to be weeks, and we're just going to count by ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Y value is going to be dollars again. Can't do ones because I got to go up to 250. Yeah, 25, because remember, I'm going increments of 25. I'm starting at 250. It should actually work out just perfectly by counting by 25s. 100, 125, 150, 175, 200, 225, and 250. Okay, where am I going to start? You got it. Say it. Okay, point. You're right. 0 to 50, because that's how much money that I'm starting with. So my first point is going to be at 0 to 50. Then every week, my amount of money is going to go down by $25. So after 1 week, how much money do I have left? $225. After 2 weeks, 200. After 3 weeks, 175. You could draw the points all the way down if you want. Just make like at least like 4 or 5 points and then draw your line. Before you draw your line, does this line need arrows? So what's going to happen down here at 10 weeks? You don't have any dollars. So like, would I put an arrow down there? No, you can't spend money if you don't have money. I mean, people do it all the time, but you shouldn't spend money if you don't have money. That's what credit cards are for. Don't use them. I mean, I use one, but they can get you in trouble. Okay, so let's answer these questions. What is the slope? Now we could pick 2 points, but how is my amount changing per week? Right, positive or negative? Negative. So my slope is negative 25, because that is how much I'm changing. And that is representing the dollars per week. Remember, your slope is some sort of rate. So you are probably going to use the word per in there somewhere. Dollars per week. Dollars per month. A lot of times we're going to use dollars. What's different about this slope than this previous problem? It's negative, right? Yeah, it's going down or it's negative. Okay, and then the last question, what is the y-intercept? Ooh, you're gonna make me crazy. 0 to 50. And that is representing our initial dollars or initial amount of money, how much we had at the start. I know it's like one of my pet peeves, that's why I'm sensitive to it, but you just saying like 250, like 250 cats, 250, I don't know. Calculators, like you gotta tell me location on a graph, 0 to 50. That's why I'm a little bit psychotic about that. Okay, I'm gonna give you a few minutes. The graph's already created on this number 2, but I want you to answer the 4 questions about it. So A, what's the slope? What does it represent? What's the y-intercept? What does it represent? Tell me what the variables are. Try and write an equation, and then tell me what each point represents. All right, so what is the slope? I'm just gonna use this point and this one. So I went up from 6 to 10, which was 4. And then I went from the right from 1 to 3, which was 2, and that simplifies to 2. So no matter what you use, you should have gotten a slope of 2. And that represents dollars per visit. If you didn't know what it represented, you always want to look at the y-axis and the x-axis and see what the units are. The y-axis was dollars, the x-axis is visits, so dollars per visit. If you looked before, here x-axis was dollars, or sorry, our y-axis was dollars, x was weeks. That's why the slope was dollars per week. So whatever those 2 axes are, it's going to be that per the other one, y per x. Okay, I want to talk about the y-intercept because I realized on Friday that this may not have been as obvious to y'all because so where I grew up, almost every single neighborhood had like a pool like in the neighborhood that like everybody just used. Here it's not as common. There are places like Piney Z or like Southwood that like people that live there use that like main pool. You have to pay for that in case you didn't know. So has anyone ever been to like Truesdale before? Y'all know what Truesdale is? There's a pool. No, yeah, maybe. Okay. So when you like are a member of Truesdale, you have to pay an initial like joining fee. So that's what I said that the $4 was, a $4 initial fee. If you didn't get that, that's okay because I just realized that that's not as a common of a thing for y'all to like have like a pool that you have to like pay to use or whatever. Apartment complexes have pools usually, but like you still pay for it. All right, so then defining variables, X was visits. Y is dollars. Did anybody write an equation? What did you get, Connor? Okay, beautiful, except you need to make sure you put Y equals. Okay, 2x 4, no problem. So Y equals 2x plus 4. So I'm charged $2 per visit plus that $4 initial fee. Each point itself represents the total cost after that many visits. For example, at 2, 8, that means after 2 visits, I've spent a total of $8. At 4, 12, after 4 visits, I've spent a total of $12. Okay, so the next thing that I write down, you need to underline it, star it, something. This is the most important thing that I've taught you so far. Hopefully, if you had an amazing math teacher last year, they taught you this. If not, don't tell me. Just say, yeah, they taught me that. Okay. Y equals mx plus b. Raise your hand if that looks familiar. Sweet. Raise your hand if you're being honest and it looks familiar. Okay, good. So this is how we're going to draw lines. I hope you noticed that as we were writing all the equations, they're all in this form. M is, what's M? We've used it for the past 2 days, 2 classes. Slope. B is going to be our Y intercept. M is slope, B is our Y intercept. We're going to use this form to draw all the lines we need to draw. Or if we're given a line, we should be able to create this form from a line. So if you look back at all these examples, on the one we just did, Y equals mx, oh, I'm erasing, not underlining. Y equals mx plus b. 2 was M, 4 was B. The one with the $250. Y equals mx plus b. Negative 25 was M, our slope. 250 was our Y intercept where it touched the Y axis. The first one we did, 160 x plus 80. Y equals mx plus b. 160 was the slope. 80 was the initial fee or the touching the Y axis. So we're going to practice drawing a couple more. So just remember the constant term what's being added or subtracted is going to be our Y intercept. And then whatever number's in front of X is going to be our slope, or a synonym for that is rate of change. And that is going to be true for every single equation when we graph it. We're going to have our y-intercept and our slope. Okay, so make sure you have your ruler handy. The first thing we need to do is be 100% positive that that is in the correct form. Is that equation in y equals mx plus b form? It is. Okay, good. So let's first, before we graph, write what they equal. So m, Which one of those two numbers is our slope? Not x, just 2. You just want to describe the number. Good. So 2. I'm going to be picky. Slope should be a fraction. What? Rise over run. So how could we make 2 a fraction? Over 1. B, remember, is our other number, y-intercept. What's the other number? 3, but if we're talking about y-intercept, 0, 3. Good. I wasn't as angry that time. Okay, so let's graph it. So our first point is going to be wherever the y-intercept is. 0, 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. That's where you're going to put your first point. From there, we're going to apply the slope. So from here, we're going to go rise, up 2, run 1. So up 2 and right 1, we're going to put a second point. So again, I graphed my y-intercept, 0, 3. From there, I went up 2 and right 1, and I put a second point. That's enough. From those 2 points, you can draw a line. When you draw your line, obviously use your ruler and extend the line, because this can go on forever in both directions, and make sure that you draw arrows. So make it longer than just connecting the 2 points, and then make sure you put arrows on both sides. Okay, next problem. Is this in y equals mx plus b form? No. Uh-oh. What do you think we have to do? Yeah, we have to put it in that form. So this equation looks different because it's not solved for y. So we have to solve it for y. When I say solve, you guys always want to get like one answer. That's not what I mean. When I say solve, I mean we want to get y by itself. Right now, the 10 is by itself, and that's not helping me. I need to get y on one side by itself. We did do this, to kind of like pull it back from your brain, like in October. I know that sounds like a million years ago, but we did do this. It was called literal equations. You just didn't know you were doing it at the time. So I'm just going to rewrite this equation, and we're going to manipulate it so that y is alone. Right now, y is being multiplied by 5 and added by 2x. So we want to do the opposites. What's the opposite of a positive 2x? Right. So let's go ahead and subtract 2x. What happens to the 2x minus 2x? It cancels, and we're left with just 5y, which is getting closer to where I want to be. I cannot combine 10 and 2x, so I'm literally just going to write 10 minus 2x. Remember, if they don't both have x's, you can't put them together. Y is being multiplied by 5. What's the opposite? Division. And we're going to divide everything by that number, every piece. What happens to the 5s next to the y? Cancel. Woohoo! Y is by itself. That makes me happy. What's 10 divided by 5? 2. And I'm going to leave 2/5 as a fraction. The reason is it's the slope. Remember, slope needs to be written as rise over run. Now, is that in y equals mx plus b form? Kind of. Almost. What would make me super happy is if you wrote it like this. So all I did was I switched those two terms. Technically, this is the correct form. I'm not going to be mad at that, but I just like it being in the proper form better. So I would go ahead and like switch those two terms if possible. Okay, so let's name our slope. Which one of those two numbers is slope? Negative 2/5. So that means our y-intercept is the other number. What is it? Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and graph. Remember, when we graph, we want to start at our y-intercept, 0, 2. My slope says -2/5. So am I going to go up or down? Down 2, right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I had a question on Friday. How do I know to go left or right? You always go right. The negative is telling you to go down, then you always run to the right. So if it's positive up, negative down, always right, okay? Go ahead and take your ruler or straight edge, whatever you got, and connect this with your 2 arrows. All right, I'm gonna give you a few minutes. I want you to, at minimum, try and put this in y equals mx plus b form. Then if you feel comfortable graphing it, do that, okay? So this is the last graph we're gonna make. If you feel comfortable graphing, go for it and graph. I at least want you to try and put it in this form if you can, okay? And I'll give you some time to do that. Okay, so right now I'm not happy because y is not by itself. -10 is by itself. So right now y is being multiplied by -5, and it's being added technically, but it's being added by -4x. So what's the opposite of -4x? Positive. So you should have added 4x to both sides. So those -4x plus 4x cancels, and you're left with -5y. That's important. I saw a handful, you have just 5y. Make sure you put -5y equals -10 plus 4x. Y is being multiplied by -5, so that means we want to divide everything by -5. So you're left with just y equals -10 divided by -5, 2. And then we want to leave that as a fraction. There is a negative in front of it. That 5 is negative, but when you have a negative in a fraction, you can move it. It can be in the denominator, it can be in the numerator, it can be out in front. It doesn't matter. It can be anywhere in the fraction. It just can't be in 2 places. You just got to move it from one place to the other. Because 4 divided by -5 is the same thing as -4 divided by +5. Those are all the same. So we could leave it like that. I would prefer you writing it like this. So again, just switching those 2 terms to make it look proper, y equals mx plus b. So our slope, which one of those numbers is slope? Nope. -4/5, the number in front of x. Don't let me down. What's the y-intercept? 0, 2. So let's graph it. We start at 0, 2. That's our first point. Then we apply the slope. The slope is negative. So which direction are we going to go first? Down. Down 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You want to take your ruler. Draw the best line you can. Make sure you have arrows on the end of your line. All right, that's going to be it as far as graphing. I do want to practice 2 more things before we go take our break. I'm going to give you 2 equations. The only thing I want you to do is write them in y equals mx plus b form. And you're going to let me know when you're done because I want to check them. Digital students, you can send them to me in the chat when you're done so I can check them. So the first, and just find blank, if you want to use a sheet of paper, that's fine. Or if you have blank space in your book somewhere, I don't care. Wherever you want to write it is fine with me. So the first one is going to be 2x plus 6y equals 18. And the second one is going to be negative 4x minus 10y equals 50. So you want to put both of these equations in y equals mx plus b form, and let me know when you're done.